Hi everybody, Tomble here from Sun Racing. Delighted this week to be joined by Barry Orr of Betfair and Ronan Groom of the Irish Field to discuss the racing over at the Emerald Isle this weekend, including, of course, the wonderful Irish Oaks that sees the top fillies over a mile and a half. And we are going to start with that Group 1 contest. Now, there's no love, there's no fancy blue, there's no peaceful. But that's not to say it's not a pretty strong race with the likes of Cayenne Pepper heading the market alongside Ennis Stuyman, with New York Girl, Laburnum, Even So, Passion, Snow, Yaxani, finishing off the runners. Barry, I'm going to come to you first. Give us some prices on this and your thoughts on the race, if you will.
Yeah, it's 2 each of 2 at the moment at the head of the market. Cayenne Pepper and Ennis Diamond, 9 to 2 Snow and 11 to 1 Bar. It's the dead 8 here for each way punters as well. So it's a race where you can really get a good look at them each way. Obviously, Cayenne Pepper was a decent run, it has to be said, behind Magical in the Pretty Polly. She looks like a filly who's crying out for a mile and a half. I just don't know whether I want to be putting my hard-earned on her to find out whether she really does need that mile and a half as much as some of her runs suggest she does. Ennis Diamond has been to the well twice now in the last couple of weeks in 2 hard races. If you look at the Ribblesdale and another hard race for her in Epsom. So I think with the dead 8 in the race, there is a bit of each way value in there. I'm going to have a look at Laburnum, who finished second to Even So on bad ground last day. Traded at 1.20 on the Betfair Exchange, which is around the 5 to 1 on mark. Interestingly, didn't get knocked around that day. And like I said, the ground was quite tacky. So I think she could go well, stepping up in trip to the mile and a half, and I think she's a filly that should give a good account of herself. I was doing a podcast earlier on, the Racing Only Better podcast with Kevin Blake, and he gave a very favourable mention to New York Girl, who's trained by his boss Joseph O'Brien. Obviously, they supplemented her for the Irish Derby. Didn't really let herself down. She was bad draw and she stayed on well, so they were quite pleased with that run as it transpires, and he gave her a big shout. But for me, the Burnham. Each way at around the 12 to 1 mark.
Yeah, lovely big price there for Laburnum. Rory, would you agree with that, or do you decide with something else?
I think you do need to concentrate on the top 2 in the market there for win purposes. And out of the top 2, I do like Cayenne Pepper. I have to say, I thought she ran huge first time up. I think that 4.5 length, defeat from Magical is better form, pound for pound with what Ennis Timon did at in the Oaks. So I do think that was a big run from Ennis Time, and I thought she made her ground at a significant part of the race there, and did very well even to hold off Frankly Darling for a second. I just like Cayenne Pepper. I was lucky enough to do Jessica's column for the Irish Field last year, and the first one we did was the day Cayenne Pepper won at Leopardstown, and she just wasn't expecting it at all. She's a daughter of Australia. And I think everything that she's done, they always thought she'd be a lot better this year. Shane Foley absolutely loves her. And that tells you a lot, because all the fillies that they have there, the likes of Albina and Alpine Star, and for some reason, Shane Foley absolutely loves this filly. As I said, I thought she ran huge first time up, and I think the mile and a half is going to be perfect for her. The each way one, Barry mentioned already, New York Girl is very interesting. I thought she ran big in the Irish Derby. Typical Joseph O'Brien style, kind of willing to have a go at any race really, so supplemented her there, which was unusual, I guess. But she wasn't beaten that far, and against the fillies here, I think she could run okay. And Even So as well. It's interesting. Barry mentioned that Laburnum traded long odds on. She looked like she was going to go past, and she just never did in the Naas Oaks trial. And I think Even So is another big improver. A daughter of Camelot for the trip. So I'd give her a shout as well. But Cayenne Pepper for the win, and New York Girl if you want to play it each way.
Lovely stuff. Some nice inside info there from Jessica Harrington Yard. I'm going to stick with Ennis Diamond. I was very keen on her for the Oaks. Obviously, she got absolutely annihilated by Love that day. Very disappointing from my point of view. But it was a brilliant success from the winner. I just think she made that big mid-race move, as you said, Ronan, during the race. And I think if the jockey had held on to a slightly longer, Shamey had held on to a little longer, she might have got closer to Love. And I think she has got the best form in the race, personally. So I'll be sticking with her for the win in the Irish Oaks. Right, moving on now to the Gain Railway Stakes, a Group 2 contest over 6 furlongs. Now, I don't know about you lads, but I think this is a slightly disappointing field this year. We probably haven't got a Siskin in who won the race last year. I'm not sure about Aidan O'Brien's duo. I'm not sure how good they are, but obviously time will tell. Artisan is likely to head the market. It's great to see Paddy Toomey with a really hot prospect on his hands. There's likes of Lucky Vega in there as well, To Glory, Forest of Dreams, Merchant's Key. Barry, come to you first again. What's your take on this race?
Yeah, Merchant's Key, course and distance winner, runner-up to Irish Chief, who's been beaten since. It's hard to split the Aidan O'Brien two for me. Lucky Vega, I thought, looked a really nice prospect. The form of that race is working out well. But on a line through Alex D, Merchant's Key, I think on a line through Alex D, Merchant's Key should beat Lucky Vega anyway. But the horse I liked in it is a one that's going to be a decent enough price. Ken Condon's horse, Law of Indices. Won in Navan over about 5.5 furlongs. Straight out of high at 250 to 1 in running that day. You wouldn't have taken a free bet with a furlong and a half to race, even with a half a furlong to race, but just looked like a horse that was learning his trade. Very stiff track at Navan, and I'm sure they're going to go a good pace in this. I know you think there's no Siskin in here, and there's probably not, but it's still a highly competitive race, Tom. And just at a nice price, Law of Indices, I thought he's a horse that's definitely going in the right direction. He looked tough. He answered every call of his jockey that day, and a really strongly run 6 furlongs in the Curragh. That'll do me. I think he's going to be a nice each way price as well.
Yeah, he's sure to get a strongly on race, isn't he? Ronan, what's your thought on the race?
Yeah, you mentioned Paddy Toomey with Artisan. I'm a huge fan of Paddy Toomey. His stats are off the board, and I just think this Artisan comes in with the best form in the race. Paddy Toomey's just knocked in the first winner at Leopardstown just about 15 minutes ago, so he always seems to be in form. He's very selective with his horses, and it's just significant that I think he's running this Artisan here again. He definitely thinks it has a strong chance, I'd have to say. Look, after that, it's a guessing game. You're dealing with all these kind of horses that have won first time out. I know Lucky Vega, the form he showed first time up at Nace, that was to beat Lipizzaner, who I'm pretty sure was the Ballydoyle Coventry horse at the time. That was the word coming from Ballydoyle. So that's probably significant. And obviously, Ger Lyons, it's probably significant that To Glory runs here. Tornado, Colton, and Ger Lyons obviously won this race 2 of the last 4. So it's a guessing game, really. It's not something I'd get hugely involved in yet. We've no prices, but I'd definitely be interested in the Toomey horse, Artisan.
Excellent. Yes, it should be very informative for the future, shouldn't it? I'm going to be sticking with Lucky Vega, I think, just because the form of his debut has worked out so well with Battleground, obviously going on to win at Royal Ascot. That form looks very strong. And the fact that Shane Furley got off that day and said that he thought Lucky Vega was still a little bit green, would have a little bit more to come. And I think on his second start, there should be loads of progression forthcoming. And it's great that Jessie Harrington relies on this horse and this horse only in this race. She's got plenty of good 2-year-olds this season. So hopefully Lucky Vega for me. Okay, lads, moving on now. We're going to talk about the Minstrel Stakes, the Group 2, over 7 furlongs, going down the list here. Probably the most exciting horse in the race is Romanized. He's a Group 1 horse. We already know that. He's proven at a very high level. He's got to take on the likes of Lancaster House. He's the kind of the up-and-comer. Very, very consistent horse. He's won 4 of his 5 starts. Love Locket, Precious Moments, also for Aidan O'Brien in there. Surrounding for Mick Halford. And then at the top, we've got Colin Keane, Joe Lyons, we've got Buffer Zone, and then Gustavus Weston finishes the field. It does look to me to be maybe a 2-horse race, maybe a 3-horse race. Brendan, come to you first. Do you reckon it's a 2-horse race, or who do you like in this?
Yeah, I think it is Tom. And I think the race isn't priced up yet, but if Romanized was favourite and Lancaster House was behind him in the market, I'd be quite keen to be with him here. I think he's pretty rock solid, even though there's an 8 pound difference between the two in ratings. Romanized, there's a huge trend with him that he comes on a lot for the first run, and obviously this is his first run in 314 days. Lancaster House has already won over this course and distance, where he was really strong from the front, beating Speaking Colours, who has obviously franked that form quite significantly since as well. I just think there's a pace angle here where Lancaster House goes off in front. Buffer Zone is up and tripped. They're not going to go forward with him. Romanized is usually always kept back. Gustavus Weston will probably sit in behind, and the other 2 O'Brien fillies won't probably be hassling Lancaster House. It looks a real kind of laid out for him. He's drawn 1 as well. He'll go off in front, and he'll be very hard to pass. I'm not surprised if all of Lancaster House starts favourite, even though Romanized has 8 pounds, but in hand of him. But it's just that first run of the season for Romanized to be very, very worried about.
Excellent. Barry, what are your take on the race? Do you think Lancaster House is the one as well?
Yeah, I think Lancaster House dragged it out of Speaking Colours and the Gladness. And I think he'll do the same to Romanized. There's, what way the race is going to be run. Lancaster House is going to pop out in front, and he's going to make that race fitness tell. There's £8 between them on official ratings, but I think that the edge that Lancaster House has in race fitness should see him through. Romanized, obviously, he's going to win plenty of races this year, but I just think first time up, that fitness edge that Lancaster House has, he'll put it to good effect. Get out and make all. He'll go off favoured, no doubt in my book, and he's probably the nap of the weekend.
Oh, very, very good. Very confident. I love it. I'm going to go against you two gentlemen, even though I respect your opinion enormously. I'm going to say I think Romanized will win, possibly not even if he has to be at his best first time up, because the form of his Group 1 runs last season, including a nose second to Circus Maximus, when he probably should have won, and the Group 1 beating of Shaman, does look very, very strong in this context of the race. And he is clear on racing, so even if he does not quite run to his best, I expect him to be successful here. Okay, finally, moving on to the Coma Group International Curragh Cup, a Group 2 over 1 mile and 3/4. Master of Reality and Twilight Payment, both in the same colours, both for Joseph O'Brien. Looks set to fight this out on official ratings, but that is not to belittle their opposition, with Cypress Creek, Giuseppe Garibaldi, Camp 4, and very interestingly, Aidan O'Brien's only runner in the race, Memorabilis, wearing first-time blinkers and won last time out. Barry, comes to you first here for the Group 2 Curragh Cup. Who's going to win this?
Yeah, the two class horses in the race are Twilight Payment and Master of Reality. He's a strong hand, like you say, Joseph O'Brien. Obviously, Twilight Payment, again, off in front, beat Barbados and Sovereign in the Vintage Crop Stakes. That was his first win, funny enough, for Joseph O'Brien since they got him from Jim Bulger. And I remember talking to Joseph when Twilight Payment first arrived in the yard, and he was a bit apprehensive whether he could improve a horse after getting it off Jim Bulger. Obviously, the owners are very keen on this type of horse in the same ownership as Master Reality. He was just only beaten ahead for Lloyd Williams in the Melbourne Cup last year before being demoted. I think Twilight Payment will probably finish in front of Master Reality again, but the horse I'm going to throw a dart on at a decent price is Memorabilis, who you spoke about there in your introduction, Tom, who beat Tarman Sur and Fairyhouse over 1.5 miles, went off and made all, looked really game that day. Now he needs to step on massively on what he's done. He hit 17 in running. The runner-up hit a low of 2 to 5 that day. And I just think there could be no end of improvement in him as well. He's one of those. He's a Galileo, isn't he? And we saw in the Derby these horses when they step up and trip and how they can improve no end. And I think he's one that fits the category. And he's probably going to be about a 7 or 8 to 1 chance. He'd be the one for me.
Excellent. Ronan, do you agree with that, or would you like something else?
Yeah, I do agree with it. Actually, is the most interesting horse there out of the 6. I think Twilight Payment obviously rock solid, and Master Reality's got to be a bit better than he was the last day. He was quite strong form last year, but nowhere near that went the last day. But Memorabilis was probably the most interesting, just on that form of Fairyhouse. I actually thought he was interesting for the Irish Derby when everyone was trying to come up with an outsider to note from the O'Brien yard there. He's first time blinkers here as well. He's coming up in trip, and 3-year-olds have quite a good record in this race. They've won 4 of the last 5. Only Twilight Payment won last year, kind of stopped the run of 3-year-olds there. So he gets a handy way allowance. He's going to get £12 off both Master of Reality and Twilight Payment, and he's probably going to be an improver for coming up in trip. So he'd be interesting if you're looking at a St. Ledger bet later in the year. If he runs even second to Twilight Payment here, he'd be interesting. So that'd be one. Not a race I'd be getting involved in, Tom, to be honest. The Scurry handicap later on in the card is probably much more betting. Barry might have a few prices there that we can have a look at.
Yeah, I think we do in the Scurry. Yeah, Laughing Minute's your favourite at the moment at 3 to 1, 9 to 2 Urban Beat. Art Humies is 7 to 1 chance along with Ice Cold Alex. Romantic Proposal 9, 10 to 1 Gulliver. Nice to see English runners in this. We've 4 Raiders coming over. They couldn't manage to muster 1 in the Oaks, but they've 4 in this, and it could be for export again this race.
Indeed. Well, that leads us on nicely to the Scurry handicap. Ronan, have you got a fancy in this then?
I do. I do. I do.
Wouldn't have brought it up if he didn't.
I do. I like a formerly trained British horse, Tommy Taylor, for the 11's yard. I thought he ran a huge race last day. He came down the stand side when nothing really came down the stand side. This was the race won by Big Baby Bull. I think all the action was over the far side, and if you look at the horses that he beat down the stand side, they were quite well beaten by him, and he was just racing on his own for a bit. I think he's got lots of back class. He used to be rated 107. I think he was with Kevin Ryan, and he used to be rated 107. He's racing here off 91. I'm not suggesting he's going to get back to 107, but just on that run the last day and his back class and the form at 11's yard, I thought he was really interesting. And Barry didn't get to him there. I think he's around the 16th one mark, and that'll do for me.
Excellent. Barry, got a view on this?
Yeah, I was liking a horse of Eddie Lyon. It was called Romantic Proposal, who was in that baby bull race, or big baby bull race. He was drawn 4 that day, so he's drawn down in the low numbers. Ran really well, an improvement sort from last year. I'd say he'll come on a ton for his run. He's in the race off 83. I thought he could go well at a nice price. So another each way play. It's a very, very good card in the card this weekend, but it's very competitive, and each way is the only way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a classy card indeed. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and go with Gunmetal each way, another English raider. He was third in the race in 2018, and Joey Sheridan's on board now. He's actually £5 lower than he was third then. He's been in these big handicaps quite a long time now, but he's not really lost much of his zest. I'm hoping at a big old price, Gunmetal is going to be able to get relatively close at least anyway. Lads, and got any other fancies on the card? I think that's probably about it for the big races, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just one, I suppose, in the Curragh. That's me done, yeah. But I obviously the John Smith, the big betting race of the weekend, is on in York at 2:30 on Saturday. For me, great example. One is Saib Bin Sarours. He's a horse. He didn't race as a 3-year-old. He didn't race as a 2-year-old. He's very few miles on the clock. Ultra consistent horse last year. Great example. I think he'd go really well at a nice price.
Lovely stuff. One for the boys in blue. Rogie, have you got a fancy in that one?
I haven't looked at that now, Tom. I have one for the last in the Curragh, the ladies' derby. Tonkin Easy there for Joseph O'Brien. I thought he did it well last day, and another one with kind of a bit of back form as well. Course and distance winner. I'll be interested to see what sort of price he ends up in the day. That's for Joseph O'Brien in the last race of the Curragh.
Horse looking to win consecutive derbies.
Consecutive derbies, yeah. Apprentice and ladies, yeah.
Absolutely. Quite impressive last time, I thought, Tonkinese. Okay, gents, thank you very much indeed. A great cracking card on Saturday, headed, of course, by the Irish Oaks and by Cayenne Pepper, Ennis Diamond, and all those other brilliantly good horses. It looks like it's going to be a really, really good classy day's racing, both at the Curragh and at York and at Newbury all over the weekend as well. There's some really good stuff on Sunday too. But thanks very much, guys. Hope you get some winners in there. I'm sure you will. There's some very reasoned arguments in there, so I expect the best from you fellows, and hopefully see you all very soon.
Thanks, Tom.
Love it.